Okay, let's get it on.
Let me know when we're good to go.
I think you're good to go, Frank.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the December 4th, 5th meeting of Scituate Conservation Commission. Just a couple quick things to read. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And then also the town of Scituate is a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is a disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. And we ask that our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. I also want to remind everybody this evening, we have a lot on the agenda. And so any comments that we get, I'm going to ask that they be limited to just a couple of minutes to try to compress and just any comments or concerns, please have it succinct and minimal amount of this talk. And then also, if it's already been brought up, if the issue's already been brought up, it would be great if we didn't repeat it. Just one time would be sufficient. So with that said, do I have any additions or changes to our agenda?
Continuing that RDA.
No, not that I can think of, Frank.
Okay. Sorry. There's just one thing. We are going to continue the RDA for Atlantic Drive when we get to that point. So
I'll make a motion.
yeah,
I make a motion that we accept the agenda as written.
thanks, Penny. Do you have a second?
Second, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Any second? All in favor? Richard?
Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
Yes.
Brenda.
And Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes, thank you. All right, 30 Manchester. This is continued.
To be continued.
Oh, it's to be so we're
I'll
continuing.
make a motion to continue 30 Manchester to January 23rd of 2023.
Second.
By Penny, all in favor. Doug
Yes.
and Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes, thank you. 6 Pine Brook Lane. Somebody from Grady?
I just unmuted Kevin Grady.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Frank?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Good evening. This is a continued hearing from a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if you're interested in seeing what we had presented before and the iterations or not, but the what's posted before you is our current scenario that we're proposing. Can I share, or am I just describing here?
I think you'll have to describe it.
Okay. Initially, we had submitted an application. For the record, though, I'm on here with the applicants, and also Walter Sullivan, I believe, is in attendance here.
Okay,
We initially submitted an application that proposed a stormwater or drainage system to address drainage issues at this house. Water flows basically into the garage where it says slab 85.1. The owner has an easement that crosses the adjacent property to the left at number 10 Pine Brook. Our initial iteration was to cross their front yard and utilize the easements and discharge to the west. Our second iteration, we had met with the town's engineer and we had discussed designing a gravity drain from the garage slab, again, slab 85.1, out to the resource area behind the at the rear of the property. Ultimately, we did not receive support from the engineering department that we had anticipated. So now we're on our third iteration, and that's what's here before you now. What the applicant would like to do is install a pervious paver driveway with Teco block. We have a series of perforated pipes below the driveway to collect any stormwater that infiltrates into the driveway. We have a header pipe to the left of the driveway, and we also have a trench grate at the bottom of the driveway. Those all connect to a drain manhole that has a sump associated with it, and the applicant is going to put a pump system in there and then discharge with a 2-inch sump line to the rear, where you see that black rectangle in the rear of the property near wetland flags 8 and 9. There is not a sufficient way to construct the drainage system by gravity without going on out to the town's property in the rear. So we had comments from the abutters in our first hearing indicating they weren't supporting this. The applicants don't want to cause any issues in the neighborhood, even though gravity system is preferred. We think this doing a pump system, which has its issues, is the best way to go at this point for this scenario. So we're looking to work within the previously developed yard. We're proposing silt sock around the perimeter of the project between the construction and the resource area to protect the resource area from siltation and any impacts during construction. Most of the project is located in the front yard. I believe this project can be constructed without having any adverse impacts to the resource area and the protected interests. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
okay. It's been a while trying to remember some of this. I'm going to pass this on to Doug to start with. How's that?
Lucky Doug.
Great move.
So I heard about this project, but I wasn't here for the previous. So I don't want to force you to be redundant, Kevin, but the system going through the easement that already exists, that's not viable.
But it no longer functions.
Wow.
It needs to be replaced, and basically would have to cut. There's a mature treed area between the lots. Would have to cut trees, would have to cut across their driveway, cross their utilities, and get to the town's easement. And then we'd have to install a manhole to connect the town's drain line, and then would have to put another line out of that in order to get a gravity system.
Yeah, pretty big deal to just have a dry garage, right?
Correct.
So every time it rains, water comes in.
Yeah. Basically, the road is at elevation 90, as you can see, and the slab's at 85.
Yeah.
We do have gradient to go out to the wetlands, but it was not supported, and I'm sure the commission would prefer us not to go into the wetlands as well.
No.
Yeah. So I looking at all this system, it looks like there's cross systems that you pick up through the pervious driveway that's going to collect water into a pipe into a pump. So is that right? And then you're gonna
Correct.
have to pump stormwater, which, yeah, that's never the first choice. So what happens at the end, Kevin? Like the structure at the end, is it like an infiltrator? I mean, is it below ground?
Yeah, so it's a manhole, Doug. Basically, it's so again, we have perforated pipe below the driveway to collect anything that's running toward the garage. And then right at the entrance of the garage, we have a trench grate. I can't flip pages to show you the
Yeah.
details, but basically it's a
It's the-
12-inch.
Yeah,
It-
the
it-
heavy
it-
dark line there is the trench
Yeah.
grate. Yeah.
It's a substantial trench grate, 8-inch invert in it. We're going to try to pick up as much as we can along the way to, keep a lot of water from going toward the garage. Then we also have a negative slope from the garage going down to the trench grate. So I think it's going to work pretty well.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of water that is heading this way once we finish the project. Currently, there's some breaks in the berm along Pine Brook Lane that allows water to go down this driveway. So they're getting run on from Pine Brook Lane. So we're also going to address that by elevating the entrance of the driveway to keep the Pine Brook stormwater on Pine Brook.
Yeah. Okay. There, and then again, the structure at the end's a manhole. Is it like
It's a deep
like
sunk
a-
manhole.
Is it a leaching chamber or?
No, because if you look, the wetlands are at elevation 84.5, 85. If we
Yeah,
did
you
that, it
can't-
would be full of water all the time. So
Yeah.
what we need is a watertight structure that we
So what
can-
happens when it gets full?
It pumps
To where?
To that,
to the
That splash
rectangle
pad.
and, yep, in the rear there.
No, I mean, I'm talking about the rectangle in the rear. What happens
so-
there?
So that is at elevation 86 approximately. If you look to the
Yeah.
rear, there's a drainage ditch at 82. There's no way that will just run downhill. So that won't hold water and be full.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, there, I couldn't see that part of it. So it says it's the riprap energy dissipator splash pad. I got it. Okay, I couldn't read that part. So thank you for whoever panned that down. So I could. That was
I don't
my.
have any controls either.
I know. That was the source of my question. So now I get it. So that from that point, then it just runs overland.
Correct.
All right. So really, it's just stormwater we're dealing with here. I would imagine that through the pervious in this perforated pipe and everything, that a lot of it's going to stay behind.
I think so as well.
And not a tremendous amount of runoff to have to worry about cleaning up or anything.
Yeah, so it's a
okay.
garage under, and they want to improve their house. They want to make sure, that they're not going to have drainage issues
Oh yeah, you have to
impacting
clean
their
the
investment.
clean the garage every time it rains, whether you want to or not. Yeah. Okay, I get it. So, all right, that was my big question, and so now I understand that it's simpler than I had pictured. So that seems like you're kind of stuck. So I'm not sure what else you could do.
all set?
Yeah.
Richard?
Oh, Doug did such a good job. I really don't have any questions that would be adding to this situation right now.
Penny?
I don't have any questions, but I do think it's a wonderful idea to raise the entrance of the driveway. So you're just gonna be draining what belongs to him. stormwater, you know,
Good point.
and not the streets. So this, it sounds to me like this will work and not affect the wetlands behind the house. Thank you.
Andy,
Nothing to add at this point.
Brendan,
Yeah, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Amy, I should have started with you. Sorry. Any thoughts?
Going home.
You know, I'm kind of glad you didn't. I don't have much to say. It looks like they're trying to make not a good situation better. DEP had no comments.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience on this one?
Seeing none.
The only question I have, I guess, is it feasible to put that discharge area? I mean, you're pumping it. Is it possible to put it a little bit further from the wetlands? So if that's got, you know, it's in a driveway, that trench drains in a driveway, if there's oil, gas, anything like that, it gets pumped out of that pit. And it's brought within, looks like within 5 or 6 feet of the wetlands.
There's, we really don't want to reintroduce it back into the house, Frank. We're trying to get a little separation there as well. And also leave a bit of a backyard. I'd be happy
There's
to take any-
there's a tree line. I mean, I'm seeing that it basically you're taking it into a treed
Yeah.
area.
That is canopy. It's not necessarily a thick forested area. We can locate that discharge around the trees. I mean, certainly pull it back a bit. We're just trying to get it uphill so it's out of any potential future flooding, et cetera.
Right. So with that discharge is, I'm just trying to figure out the topography here because
That's elevation 86 approximately.
where that, yeah.
Discharge. Yep.
And the house is at the top of the foundations at 93. So that yard pitches towards the wetlands, right?
Correct. And the basement slab is 85.
So I guess if I had my druthers, I'd just see that. What's the scale on that one? Is it?
It's probably a 20 scale. Let's
Yeah.
see. Yeah, it's 20 scale.
So that discharge area is only. Is it 10
Yeah,
feet from the
Yeah,
wetland?
it's probably about 10 feet.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd rather see that number be more like 20 feet, but
Well, for clarification again, Kevin, the pipe going from the pump to the splash pad, is that perforated?
No, that would be a 2-inch
that-
line. I did draw a profile for it as well.
Okay, so that's a 2-inch line.
So that's temporary impacts. It is stormwater.
It's kind of like a sump pump, basically.
Yeah.
outside.
Sump pump. It's stormwater from a residential driveway. It's not a commercial development where you'd have significant oils and
Yeah.
Potential.
no, it's a complicated thing and you've gone through a lot of hoops to get this to that point.
20 feet, Frank, would be in the middle of what is their yard. You're putting a fountain in the middle of their yard too.
All right. Well, that's the only thought I had, but if we think we're
I
gonna
did
be,
look at, I considered that as well, but like I said, we'll be putting right in the middle of everything.
okay. All right. Oh, I don't have any other questions. Are we good to close on this?
I think so. I'll make a motion To
Go ahead.
close. I
I'll
make a
second
motion
it.
to close.
I'll second it. Richard,
Second by Richard. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Yep, good luck.
Thank you.
25 Julian Street,
that's also being.
and that's been, where do
moved
I
to
have
January.
that?
Yep, it is. I'll make a motion to continue 25 Julian Street to January 23rd, 2023.
That's Rick.
Second,
Second by Penny. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank. Thank you. Sorry, 61 Border Street.
And that's also.
Oh, do I have to
We gotta
open it?
Open first.
I gotta
please,
open this one, sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
oh.
Um,
29.
on December 5th at 6 PM, the Town Hall Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Lou DeFranco for work related to constructing a dock with a ramp and float at location 61 Border Street, Situate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access the virtual meetings available on the agenda posted on the town website. And we have a request to continue this to
January 9th, I think,
Yep.
January 9th.
2023.
Yep.
Make a motion to continue 61 Border Street to January 9th, 2023.
That's Penny. There was second.
I'll second that. Brendan.
Brendan, all in favor. Richard,
Yes,
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay.
Central Ave.
Bear with me for a second here.
Yeah,
Central Ave, Northern Humrock, Fourth Cliff. Applicant is US Air Force. And am I opening that one?
yeah.
Yep. On December 12th,
December
December
5th.
5th at 6 PM, the Town Hall Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of United States Air Force for work related to road repair, construction of pedestrian path, and infrastructure repairs, improvements at the location at Central Ave, Northern Humrock Peninsula, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. And we should have Jacobs Engineering.
We hope.
Yeah, I just unmuted Scott Sheehan.
Hi,
Good
Chairman
evening.
Snow, members of the commission. Can you hear me?
Yes,
We can.
Hi, real quickly. We have about probably 15 people in this Zoom. I won't introduce them all, but my name is Scott Sheehan. I am a natural resource manager, environmental engineer. Myself and Jim Maravelius represent the Air Force for this project. A couple of key members of our team. We have Renata Welch, our Air Force Chief of Environmental, Dave Wong, our Chief of Engineering. Evelyn Hidalgo is our project engineer and project manager for this. And then our primary team members include KZF, Design and Engineering, and Jacobs Engineering. Lynn Zuck is the project manager for KZF. And Mary McConnell, I think she'll be speaking tonight. She's the chief engineer for this project. And then John Burgess will probably be speaking tonight too. He's with Jacobs Engineering on the environmental portion, and also Ann McKinnon. So I just wanted to give you 3 or 4 minute background on the project for those not familiar. We first came in front of the commission back in 2009, 2010, and permitted this project. And back then, it was simply an erosion protection control around the point, the tip of Fourth Cliff and the eastern shore. That got permitted. It went up into the president's budget for funding. It was $15 million, but it required congressional approval, and a congressional staffer lined that out. So it sat dormant for many years, because once Congress disapproves something, they're not good at reconsidering for a long time. Since then, we came back and in 2017 and 18, we started having this road collapse that you see in the picture. We lose about 1 foot of coastal bank every year on average for the last 50 years. And Winter Storm Riley in 2018, we lost 10 to 15 feet, and it led to that road collapse. So we went back and re-envisioned the project. We went out with an environmental assessment, had project team meetings with people all over the place, including Office of Coastal Zone Management. And our approach at that time was to repair the road by reclaiming that road and then construct an erosion control around it. And therefore, it wouldn't be classified as construction by Congress, it'd be classified as repair. We ran into roadblocks there in getting our federal consistency determination from CZM, because reclamation of lost land doesn't meet the state policies. So that was not an option. So now we went back and re-envisioned the project, took all the input that we got from about 30 different agencies into consideration. And now we're taking a retreat approach, where we're going to be retreating back from the edge of the cliff. And the overall undertaking will involve 3 phases. The first phase is this upland portion to retreat back from the cliff, repair the roadways, put in some safety mechanisms, and reestablish fire access, since there's no turnaround down there anymore. Phase 2 and 3, which aren't for permitting tonight, it still has some work to do through CZM, and would include erosion protection of the northern tip, and phase 3 would be the erosion protection of the eastern bank that you see there. So right at once we complete our environmental assessment on the larger, broader project, includes all 3 phases, that's when we'll send that over to CZM to try to get a consistency determination that allows us to wrap up our environmental assessment that's required under federal law. The phase 1 of the project's approved by the Air Force. So as soon as we get permitting, it should be able to proceed. Phase 2 and 3 is dependent on the outcome of that environmental assessment. So now that's a little bit of the background. And, the first documentation we have that erosion was a problem out there was a letter from the Army that used to own the property in 1948 to the Pentagon. And it was in 1948, they said something needed to be done out here. So here we are 70 years later, and we're hoping we can actually move forward. Now I'd like to turn it over to John Burgess. He's going to give a summary real quick of our notice of intent, and then take it from here. But our whole team is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
Hey, good evening,
Thanks, Scott.
everyone. Thanks,
Good job.
Scott. Yeah, just briefly go over as Scott said, there's 3 phases. This is phase 1, so it's just the upland portion. And so the objective of this phase 1 is to address the safety issues in the damaged perimeter road by removing the damaged asphalt and concrete pavement at the tip there, with a 10-foot setback from the edge of the cliff or the coastal bank. So there's no direct impact to the coastal bank itself proposed for this phase 1. And then also to improve pedestrian access and use of the facility by installing a paved pedestrian path, which will replace the lost perimeter road and allow pedestrian access around there. and also restore some of the camping amenities and safety features lost to erosion. And as Scott mentioned, also restore fire department access because right now they do not have full access. So part of the project will be creating an asphalt turnaround on Cliff Road for the fire department access issue. And then finally, also damaged utilities will be repaired and replaced, including a damaged sanitary pipe, damaged water line, and obsolete electrical service from the former recreational vehicle sites. So, so I just want to briefly go over the wetland impacts that are in the notice of intent. There's no direct impacts to coastal wetland resources, including coastal bank, coastal dune, coastal beach, and barrier beach, which we have all those resources around Fourth Cliff. There will be minor activity in the high-risk AE flood zone on the western side, but it will not affect the elevation or velocity of the floodwaters. So the only issue is the portions of the projects are within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone for coastal bank, as well as coastal dune, coastal beach, and barrier beach, and as well as some of the area is in the 50-foot wetland buffer strip under the Scituate Wetlands Protection Bylaw. You can see those buffer zones, the buffer zone and the buffer strip are shown on sheet VF 100, which is page 7 of that PDF that we sent earlier. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. So you see the two lines which show where the 50-foot buffer and 50-foot buffer strip and the 100-foot buffer zone. So much of the buffer zone, as you could see in that previous aerial photo, has been disturbed. It's existing pavement from the perimeter road and the RV parking spots. Thank you. Yeah, it's right there. You can see right at the tip all that existing pavement and the parking areas that are there. So approximately 10,484 square feet will be removed of existing pavement from the buffer zone. Up to, as I mentioned, within 10 feet of the cliff edge, because we didn't want to impact the coastal bank directly. But the project is not expected to have an adverse effect on the stability of the bank. So it's meeting the performance standards for work within 100 feet of a coastal bank. So the existing pavement will be removed, and then the area will be revegetated with native salt tolerant vegetation. And as I mentioned, a portion of the area will be repaved as a new pedestrian path, with also the creation of 2 ADA compliant van parking spaces. And that total area covers approximately 5,059 square feet. And you can see that on the sheet CS 100, which is page 9 of the PDF, which shows the proposed redevelopment or road repair and redevelopment. And then finally, let's see the portion, the area in the 50-foot buffer strip is approximately 3,266 square feet. So that right there, you can see the proposed pedestrian path, the 2 ADA compliant van parking spaces, and then the fire department turnaround is to the I guess it's to the south here. I don't see where the north arrow is, but to the right of your screen there, that's the new proposed fire department turnaround area. And what else did I want to cover? So any disturbed areas will be, the other areas will be temporarily disturbed, and then they'll be restored upon completion of the work. And the only other thing I wanted to mention as far as the environmental aspect is the area surrounding Fourth Cliff has been identified as priority habitat for piping plover and least tern. But we just received determination from the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program concurring that the project will not adversely affect the actual resource habitat areas of the state protected wildlife species, and phase 1 will not result in a prohibited take of listed species. So so that's what I wanted to cover quickly on just to give a quick overview of the wetland impacts and endangered species issues. And I want to hand it over to Mary McConnell, who's with KZF Design. She's actually the lead engineer that designed this. So she's going to just touch on, you know, highlights of the design and the stormwater management aspects of the project.
Pictures here in a second. This is fourth clip here.
Well, thank you. So I'll hand it to Mary.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you, John. Here we go. I just want to go over we'll stay on this page, it's fine, and maybe the erosion control sheet that also came with the PDF that we sent over. So basically you can see that we've removed a lot of that pavement from the cliff side. Those camping sites are going to be gone. It just wasn't safe over there. We're going to clean up what we can in that area and just, you know, get it away from where the erosion is occurring, making it safer and accessible. And then we already talked about the fire department turnaround. To meet the purpose and need of the redevelopment and allow it to be usable facility, the fire department's got to be able to get up there. So we achieved that. And then we left there are some historic turret items that we're leaving in place. They're deep. They're not at risk of erosion in the current state. They're sturdy. They won't be problematic, and we're going to leave them in place. And now on to the good stuff. So the stormwater, we've added, if you see the pedestrian path that goes along the toe of the cliff, that's replacing the road that used to circumnavigate in the area. There is a swale on the next sheet, the CG 100. You can see there you go. Those grading contour lines, that is actually a swale. There used to be a concrete curved ditch along the roadway that would channel the water and swoop it around the northwest and then down into a drainage structure. So now instead we're going to have it be a grassy swale, and then it collects in that trapezoidal ponding area that's a forebay for settlement. And then there's a water quality structure, a riser on this sheet. On the right hand side, you'll see the water quality riser detail. So all of the stormwater that's coming off of any of the pavement and that that little bit of even pedestrian path and ADA parking will go to that swale, be channeled down, allowed to settle out, go through the water quality riser, and then follow the existing storm pipe to a lesser speed and capacity than it was in the existing condition. So we're slowing things down, allowing for more settlement and better water quality. So I believe that we're improving the stormwater condition along the toe of the cliff. The native plants and grasses, so that outside of that graded swale, you'll see where we're putting in a little safety guardrail. It's just a low guardrail for the pedestrian safety. And on the other side of that is where we'll revegetate with the salt tolerant grasses. We provided a specification for that, and we used the guidance. We were provided a lot of guidance by the local area for what their preferences were, and we provided that. So that should protect the erosion at the top of the cliff, and that stormwater, that's mostly, I'm expecting it to be a re-infiltration and then a high level of water quality in that area as well. So the last piece is that, so everything kind of outside of that is just existing pavement that we have some pavement marking to kind of help with the ADA aspects of the facility, like striping. That we added some parking spaces in front of the laundry facility, but they're open graded, so they're just not a concern. And then we left all of the stormwater egress that goes down to a catch basin and a pipe that goes to the low. It's not the high end of that cliff, it's on the low end of that cliff. It's pretty flat. There's a lot of rocks down in that area that, so there's no turbidity. There really isn't even any flow. We kind of stop it in that swale and water quality structure. So the little bit that is kind of trickling out over there should not be any kind of an erosion problem. I used the Massachusetts EPA BMPs there's a detail sheet that's included with the set. And so we have like the silt socks and silt fence and erosion inlet protection in the area for the construction condition, and have it in there that swale and water quality riser should be a part of the construction condition as well, so that everything's kind of kept really clean during the when they're removing the pavement and installing the, in the interim between when the grass grows. So that's all that it is. It's a pretty simple project, actually. It looks like a lot in the photos, but I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about the plans.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there more that we want to explain, or when do we want to move to?
Nope, that was it.
That's
We're
it.
open it to questions. now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's quite a bit there. Richard, it's your neck of the woods, so to speak. You're muted, I think.
Having a trouble with that button tonight. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was out there today with a bunch of others with us, and very interesting tour. Very interested that it was 70 years ago, about the first time I was ever out there, when the Army spoke up and said something had to be done. At any rate, we have to deal with what's now, and I love the way. I wish it could all be done at once. I will say that, because there's still going to be consistent migration to tear the rest of it away. The one question I come up with immediately is I just would want to make sure that the pavement that's being torn out, unlike what's down at the bottom of the cliff, will be actually taken away, not left to just settle down at the bottom of the cliff. And the engineering stuff, I'm not that great with it, but I liked very much when we had the tour today, the way the walkway was going up to the top. We definitely needed the turnaround for the fire engines at the top off of Cliff Road. And for now, just that one question about the asphalt would be the first thing that comes to mind.
So part of the SWIP includes the construction phasing is a requirement, because it's such a small site. The SWIP can be single phase, and we're below even the threshold for certain metrics, but we included them anyway. That pavement will all be removed from the top of the cliff. We're not allowing any beach work. You know what I mean? We're not going to have them down there. Right. So yeah,
But
it will be pulled up and removed
And taken
on
out
the
of,
top side.
yeah, and taken out of the area, not left to fall down. Correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
that is like a big driver for this anyway. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That's what I've got for now.
Okay. Penny, you were out there.
Yeah, my concern is I was shocked today, absolutely shocked at how much asphalt, because within the last 10 years I had been out there, but it's probably been 10 years since I was out there. And what the change I saw today was just, to me, unbelievable. That the road is gone, the majority of it's down on the beach, and the erosion on the ocean side of the actual cliff, it's just being eaten away. What scares me is, I'm glad it's getting started, but if we have another storm like 2018, before you get to actually work on trying to stop the erosion of the actual cliff, is all this work going to be for naught that you're doing now with the walkway and the turnaround and so forth? I mean, it is scary to look at that picture in 2018, what happened out there. And that was, that's only 6 years ago.
Mhm.
Or no, 5 years ago. And
So, no.
I just worry, how long do you think it's going to take before the actual doing some stuff on the land to stop this erosion? That Mother Nature, I mean, she's coming and she's after us.
Yes, ma'am. This is Scott Sheehan. I'm probably the best person to answer that.
Well, we were out there
This-
with Scott, yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's hard for me, especially at my level, to speak on the Air Force on any commitments of when and if anything can ever get done, whether it's
Yeah.
fourth cliff or whether it's even like replace a roof on a base housing. There are two things that are optimistic that I've seen is that that the erosion control, you know, at the tip and around the side, it's been reduced from that 15 million where we were rebuilding the road down to below 7 million, meaning that it doesn't require congressional approval.
Hmm.
So we've eliminated that major hurdle. It's ranked number 2 on Hanscom's, you know, major project list, and that includes Hanscom Main Base out in Bedford, Fourth Cliff, and all our properties. And we're pressing forward. We're pressing forward with our complete environmental assessment and coastal zone management determination. So it's ready to go whenever that money can drop. You know, I don't know what other Air Force priorities may come up in that time though. So it's really hard for me to to say that.
Well, it's just devastating to me what I saw out there today. I had no idea it was this bad. It is not good. Not good at all. Thank you.
Okay, I guess Doug?
Well, yeah, I kind of, I guess I have to appreciate the situation you're in and not being able to give a clearer answer than that. It is unfortunate because you've mentioned a couple times about the project that you're putting for us today, and that there's no adverse impact to the resource area, but there's an existing adverse impact to the resource area. And stopping that this has to happen too, but dealing with the erosion just seems like it would be such a priority. I don't, you're going to be, I'm concerned that it's going to erode back to the improvements you're making now. So, and I didn't realize the change in grade from as we look at the plan from the top to the bottom, there's almost 20-foot change in grade there. I didn't realize it was that steep. So that walkway is going to be a runway. If it were me, trying to walk down it, but yeah, that's I'm not going to just repeat all those concerns that Penny has, but I think probably all of us have that same thing. We'd really like to see what's happening falling off into the water stop. But what you're proposing is a good project, and I guess we're all just going to have to sit and hope that the Air Force proceeds with the rest as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's not just a comment from the commission. We've had congressional inquiries through, you know, Senator Warren's office and the governor's office, and it's those discussions are at the level of our installation commander, which is 12 above me. And while I get privy to some of that, I can't speak for her as the commander at this point. I can tell you that on this, besides this upland phase 1 that we're doing, when we're getting into the bank and the beach and the coastal zone and all that, we have a list of 32 stakeholders that we've been working with, from Office of Coastal Zone Management to the Bureau of Underwater Archaeology to NHESP and the National Marine Fisheries Service and North and South River Watershed Association. I mean, There are a bunch of them, and a lot of them with competing priorities. We think we've navigated that over the past 2 years, and we've gotten a solution for the erosion portion of that will work. You know, it's gone through the MEPA filing where we got our MEPA certificate that included all 3 phases, except that we need to come back with the notice of project change once we get that final design for the erosion design. We expect to have that wrapped up and ready to come out, you know, for public comment and basically make a final determination of impact in spring of this year. So we're progressed pretty far along on that. It's taken a while. And of course, you know, we'll make that available to the commission at that time so you can really see what our plans are out there.
Great. Well, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's see,
Andy.
Andy.
Yeah, no questions. I was out there today, and I mean, I share the long-term questions that everyone's raised, but I think in this case, this project sort of recognizes the immediate need to retreat. It's a pretty well-disturbed site. I got the safety needs, so I think I'm good with it. Makes sense to me.
Okay, thanks. Brendan?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was not able to be there, but yeah, I share everyone else's view. It's really clear that I guess this needs to be done. And looking forward to hopefully that long-term solution being implemented, right? That's all.
Okay, Amy, I forgot to, should have started with you on this. I'm gonna comment.
Sure, Frank. Yeah, well, so no, it's good to go through the board. I mean, it's a complicated process, complicated project. I mean, it's very complicated. I know you guys have read through the very long ENF certificate that was published on August 8th on the site. 32 pages of information, which in quite a lot of detail went through all the alternatives that have been considered and reviewed by the different agencies, going through, you know, the different phases of the project. But we're just looking at this first phase here and hoping that they will be able to address some of these stability issues and pulling back some of this pavement and addressing some of the stormwater issues to hopefully control some of the erosion. It does trigger the stormwater review. So I did put a proposal request out to a peer review consultant to review the stormwater. So I was hoping to have that looked at just to have another set of eyes on the plan set that you have before you, but the local orders are required along with some of the other permits from the state agencies. I think this, and I'm not exactly sure what other state permits are going to be required for the project to move forward, whether there's another CZM permit. I don't think that there's a 401 permit that's required. As Scott did say, or Jacobs did say, that the birds are not going to be an issue for this particular project, so that's good. Be good to see some of the debris cleaned up and for erosion controls to be put in place sooner rather than later, because it's evident out on the sidewalk today that the bank is definitely deteriorating right off the side of the cliff. You can see where it's, you know, the erosion is coming right straight down off the pavement, and that should be addressed sooner rather than later. So like to see this move forward.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this?
See anybody with their hand up?
Okay. I just want to be sure I'm clear on this. So right now, the work that we're looking to permit does not address the bank stabilization at all?
That's correct. This is just phase one. It's only in the upland area. So nothing on the bank itself. That would be, phase two would be to stabilize the tip, the worst erosion. And phase three, as Scott said, would be to stabilize the eastern bank there. So there's 3 phases total that are being evaluated, in the environmental assessment right now. But this what we're permitting right now is just phase one, just the upland.
Yeah, and the Scotchian, about the only thing that you could consider even remotely is some stabilization, positive impact would be the revegetation of that area. But with if there's a major storm, that's not going to provide much.
Right.
There's probably asphalt provides better protection than than plantings do. But
So you're gonna remove all that asphalt, right? Near the bank, is that, I'm trying to look at the plan and
Yep. So what
and my
you're,
apologies for not being there today, but
if you're, the grading sheet that's shown on the CG 100, everything to the north of the pedestrian path is plantings. It's either lawn, it'll be lawn and the swale, the water quality swale to that curved guardrail. And then native salt tolerant grasses from there to whatever condition the toe is in, right?
so people coming in to use the buildings now are gonna come in and go into that turnaround and park in that area? They won't be coming all the way around anymore?
They haven't been able to for years anyway, because the barricades are up at the road. It's so unsafe. The campsites have not been usable for years, and we feel like it's going to continue to do this. So we just took all of that out and
I see.
then put some ADA parking in, and that the path across the toe is not ADA. So we provided ADA on both the top, the high side and the low side of the cliff for the people using the facility. They just wouldn't navigate that little piece of the path.
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess removing that asphalt that's caving in and cleaning up that is a good project. And I can't imagine the bureaucracy that you have to go through to get this project moved along. But I guess if I were developing that property or improving it, I'd be working towards protecting the cliff before I was sinking money into the top part of it. But
Right, the asphalt has to come out because it's hanging over right now.
I understand that, and I think that's great, and I hopefully this will give them some time, but I just
Yeah.
don't see the logic in.
Well, I think because the funding for this is approved, it's less than $500,000. It's actually ready to go. We still have the environmental assessment, the CZM determination, and then the budgeting process for the erosion part. So they figured since the money's ready to go for this phase, let's get this done rather than push it off, until after the erosion protection is done. Because it is having a pretty major impact on the usability of Fourth Cliff the way it is right now.
Sure.
And there's a risk. I'm not going to disagree, and I will wholeheartedly agree that there is a risk that storms could come through and further cause even more damage to the new improvements in several years, depending on what types of winters we get. If that was to happen, I don't know what the next step would be. But
Okay.
I wish I had answers for you, because I wish I had the answers myself.
No, I say I appreciate it just must be daunting to go through all those steps. It's just a shame that there's a piece of property out there that's just really degrading quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything else. Anybody else want to add anything?
We have to continue this, don't we?
For the
Aye.
stormwater.
Yes, right.
Yeah, right.
So in terms of the stormwater piece, Amy,
Mhm.
gonna, did you get any proposals for that or?
Yes,
Okay,
and we're just waiting for the funding.
okay. And is that something that gets done fairly soon? I guess my question is to the applicant. How does that work on your end?
Yes, we got the kind of the invoice and the letter for that. So it can be a challenge to even get the federal government to cut a check, but that's actually speeding through, and it may not be there on the 7th, but within a few days.
Okay. All right.
So when do we want to continue this to? I mean, I'd like to see them be able to get going on this as quickly as possible.
I guess one of my questions was, once the third party reviewer begins their process, if you had like just kind of gauging your experience with that component, you know, will they spend a day, a week, you know, like what are your thoughts on how long they'll hold on to something like this? Return comment, we won't need long to adapt, you know, whatever comes out of that. But I guess that would be a question.
Yeah, well, my experience is that usually they'll take a look at it, have some comments, give them back to you, you'll answer their comments. Probably there'll be a set of revisions, and then hopefully it'll be good to go. It's usually 1 to 2 times back and forth.
Like over the course of a week,
Over the course of a couple of weeks.
couple of weeks, okay. That's
So,
helpful, thank
so
you.
with the holiday, with this being December and the holidays or something, do we want to go? Are we
first
thinking
of
like
January?
midway in January, or
January
Yeah.
9th?
I would say
January 9th?
so.
is that is that a reasonable time?
Yeah,
I think so.
January
What do we-
9th.
I hope so. I mean, let's say January 9th,
Yeah.
and I mean, if it's not ready, we can continue it to the next meeting. Hopefully the holidays don't throw a wrench into things.
So does that work for you folks, if we continue this to the 9th?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
works.
Okay, and
Okay.
hopefully then they can get going. So I'll make a motion to continue Central Ave, Northern Hammerock, Fourth Cliff to January 9th, 2023.
That's Penny. Do I have a second
I'll second that, Brendan.
from Brendan? All in favor, Richard,
Yes,
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
excuse me, and Frank, yes. Great. Well, let's
Thank you,
hope
folks.
this moves forward. Thank you very much.
All right,
Right.
thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 131 Glades Road on December 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code bylaws regarding the application of Deborah Egan for work related to septic repair of single-family dwelling located at 131 Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. And who do we have?
This is Greg Morse with Morse Engineering.
I agree.
Good evening, Greg.
Thank you. Good evening. As was just read into the record, this is a notice of intent for property at 131 Glades Road. I'm representing the property owner, Deborah Egan. This is a septic system repair project. The lot itself is approximately 9,600 square feet. There's an existing 2-bedroom home on it. There's a failed septic system. The proposal here is to construct a new Title V compliant septic system consisting of a new septic tank, a distribution box, and a series of infiltrator chambers. Being on Glades Road, this site is in land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is elevation 15. And for reference, this site sits at elevation 11 to 12. This is also located on a barrier beach. The proposal here, again, is a new septic tank, a distribution box, and leaching infiltrators. It's greater than 100 feet away from the salt marsh behind the residence. There's no change in the topography of the land associated with this. The DEP had no comments. I've reviewed this with the Board of Health, and pending your approval, they are going to issue their approval. I turn it over to you.
Thanks, Greg. Andy?
I don't have any questions on this one.
Okay. Brendan?
Sorry, yeah, no questions.
Okay. Richard?
No, I don't either.
Penny?
Well, it looks pretty straightforward. Just one question. The existing septic, Greg, what are you doing with that? Is it a fill-in or?
Yeah, it would be filled in, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Doug?
No questions. It was a perfect presentation.
Perfect.
Richard, did I ask you?
Yeah, you did. And I still say the same thing. No
Amy?
question.
DEP had no comment. Board of Health, I think, has it ready to go, so looks good.
Anybody in the audience?
Seeing none, Frank.
Awesome.
What about Mr. Snow?
Looks pretty
Nothing.
good to me.
I make a motion to close then.
Wow.
Oh.
So that's Penny. Do we have a second?
Second, Andy.
Second from Andy. All in favor, Richard?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Well, that was good.
Yay. That was
Thank
an
you.
easy one.
Thank you, Greg.
Do you want to make a motion to issue too, please?
Sure.
Okay, I'll make a motion to issue on 131 Glades Road.
And
No
a
second
second
that.
from Brendan. All in favor, Richard?
Yep.
Doug?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great.
Huh.
Keep them going.
See, we can make somebody a happy Christmas.
What do we got now?
Buttonwood.
298 Central Ave.
You have to
This
open
is
it, I think.
a continuation.
Yeah.
They want to
Oh,
continue.
no, I got to open it and
Right.
then they want to continue. So on December 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Jill and Michael McVoy for work related to
McAvoy.
reconstruction of a deck on new piles at a single-family dwelling at 298 Central Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information and access to the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website.
Now you need a motion to continue.
And they requested a continuance to
January 9th.
the 9th.
So I make that motion.
So Richard's made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Penny, all in favor. Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you.
Next.
Number 9, Buttonwood Lane. Let's see.
I think it's 8, Frank.
8 Buttonwood Lane. Thanks. On December 5th, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Chris Remington for work related to demolishing the existing pool house and constructing a detached garage, a single-family dwelling at 8 Buttonwood Lane, Scituate. Other abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access. The virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website. Okay. And we have Greg.
Yes, again, this is Greg Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner, Chris Remington. As was just read into the record, this is a notice of intent associated with a raise and rebuild of a detached building at 8 Buttonwood Lane. Looking at the plan here, Buttonwood Lane is off on the left-hand side of the page. The lot itself is the black bold line. It's approximately 39,772 square feet. There's an existing home at the property. There's also in the backyard an existing pool and an existing pool house. At the rear of the property, there is a bordering vegetated wetlands that was delineated by Brad Holmes, a professional wetland scientist. We've highlighted that line in blue. Extending off of that in red is the 50-foot buffer, and in green, the 100-foot buffer. The entire site is also located in the FEMA floodplain, land subject to coastal storm flowage at elevation 15. For reference, the site exists at elevation 10 along Buttonwood Lane to approximate elevation 8 where the salt marsh is. The pool house was damaged by fire approximately a year and a half ago. The structure itself still remains standing at the site. The proposal is to take it down, and in its place, largely in the same location, is to construct a new 2-car garage. The 2-car garage you'll see is the bold square depicted on the plan. Where it sits, the existing pool house is 25 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland. The proposal with the new garage would be at 27.4 feet. It is located inside the 50-foot buffer zone, but it is no greater of an area inside the 50-foot buffer zone. There's 479 square feet of existing pool house. The proposed garage is 478 square feet inside that buffer. That buffer zone in that location is previously developed. It is all lawn or the existing pool house location. The garage here, there'd be no change in the ground surface or no change in the grade associated with it. It would be equipped with flood vents. We're proposing an erosion control barrier between the limit of the wetlands and the limit of the work. DEP had no comments on this. I turn it over to you.
Okay. Amy, do you want to actually comment on that?
All right. DEP had no comment. I mean, it looks pretty straightforward as far as the fact that this is all in flood zone and he's just replacing a building that's, I guess, caught on fire, so I'm not sure what there is to say. I
Okay.
mean, it'd be good to have some improvement here. You're not getting any improvement, but I don't know. Really, honestly, I'd say it's something that you could set orders for. How about that?
Okay. All right. Richard?
So as I see it, there's a driveway in existence now that's going to be utilized. That is bituminous concrete. Am I reading that right? And will that be altered at all where it's going into a garage as opposed to a pool house?
Sure. The existing driveway, you're correct, is bituminous concrete, asphalt. Between the proposed garage and the limit of the existing driveway, we're proposing a pervious paver to make the connection, not additional
I see
asphalt
it now.
surface.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that now. Sorry. Okay. It's the one I had for now. Thank you.
Okay. Doug?
Not, well, an observation. I think, Greg, it looks like the garage, the new garage is actually a couple feet further away from the wetlands than the
Right.
pool house was,
Right.
correct?
It's It is, yeah, the existing pool house is at 25 and a half feet. The proposed garage is 27.4. Yeah, slightly further away.
Yeah, yeah, but not closer.
No,
So this is a dumb question, but why not ask it in front of like the whole world? What are the flood vents for in a garage? Like if they have to, if it's a slab, what are they up
it's
above the slab to
They-
allow water to go through the garage?
correct. Yeah, it's more of a structural issue, so you don't have pressure on the exterior of the walls.
Yeah, correct. So that works on a slab situation as well then. So you've got a little bit of a wall there, and then you're gonna have vents. So if the water did get up that, it'll go through the garage.
Correct. It's a pressure relief point is what it is.
Yeah. Interesting. Do we have anything in our orders, Amy, about contents of garages or any other buildings in flood zones? I guess not. So that's a
Sorry, I couldn't get my mouse to unmute me.
Know the problem.
No, we don't usually carry a condition, but we could put one in. I mean, yeah, but no. Same
No,
thing
not
with
if-
sheds, you know, like cover like oil and hazardous materials or contents in flood zones. We don't usually carry something like that in our orders.
Okay,
But we've
no,
talked about it before.
yeah, I'm not looking to do anything new and different. I just was wondering if we had something that was just sort of a generic thing. Not that we can control that sort of thing, but I didn't know if we had anything. It's something we could consider at some point in time. That's it. I'm done asking questions.
Well, it's not a bad question because we've talked about that before, especially in areas that we think are really vulnerable. On fuel and stuff getting tipped over or spilled or anything like that. But
Yeah, we talked about it down on the new driftway a long time ago.
yeah,
New driftway on the beaches.
Yeah.
They're pretty protected here, even though it is a flood zone.
okay. Penny,
Nope, it looks fine to me.
and Andy,
I guess just the question was raised about improvement. I mean, this isn't a huge change, but we are, we're adding the driveway and then swapping the pool house with the garage and creating parking for 3 additional cars in the 50 on the property, and all that comes with it. So, I guess it would make me feel a little better if there was some improvement here, as part of the project, where we sort of allow more parking of vehicles in the 50. So that would be my 1 point.
okay. And Brendan,
I really do share Andy's sentiment there that I'd like to see some improvement for that very same reason.
okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this?
Seeing nobody, Frank.
Okay, so if we were thinking about some sort of environmental improvement for this, given this change, and I guess this is out to you, Greg, a little bit. Do we think it would be more beneficial? I'm assuming that driveway, the existing driveway, sort of slopes. If I was coming in off of Buttonwood Lane, that driveway must slope towards the right, so it sort of drains onto the lawn.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and there's a good amount of lawn and other property before that goes anywhere else. So to add any kind of drainage or anything there wouldn't be that really beneficial. Would there be any habitat improvements or anything that would be relatively
Sure.
beneficial?
Yeah, what I could see is I'm looking at the current limit of the lawn essentially around the house. And for the most part, at the edge of the lawn, there's either a post and rail fence as you first come in off of Buttonwood Lane, and then out back behind the swimming pool, there's landscaping, and then there's a fence around the back edge of the pool. There's a brick wall that comes up toward the proposed garage, but to the right of the proposed garage, we're showing a brush line, and there really is no fence in that location of the lawn. We could add conservation markers to delineate there for future encroachments, but I think we could also potentially fill in, a piece of that lawn to the right of the proposed garage at a 1-to-1, or we could even fit a 2-to-1 ratio of that driveway area that's proposed with plantings. And I see that following kind of a triangle of the existing brush line and the number 8 contour to the right of the barn. Looks like it would be a 2-to-1 replication ratio. I think we'd be happy to do that and put conservation posts in that location.
Andy or Brendan?
I like it.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
All right.
Condition it.
No, I think that's a great suggestion. So did I miss anybody?
No.
And I asked for audience, right?
Yep.
Thank goodness somebody's paying attention here. Okay,
Make a motion to close.
can we do that? Can just condition that change and close this?
So you're hoping that I understood that.
Well, I can show you on the map. There's just
Yeah.
between the brush line and that contour, it's kind of makes a sort of an odd
I think I have it written down. Add conservation markers. Or
and
get rid of lawn and add plantings, a 2-to-1 ratio. It's where, I'm not sure, I'm a little fuzzy on where you're talking about, but
I can show you when we're done, at least what I
like
interpret.
Greg, maybe you could just mark it on mark the plan up and send it to me tomorrow. Would you
I
be able to
certainly
do
can
that?
do that.
That would be great.
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
That'll
Okay.
be easy.
Thanks.
So close with conditions.
So I have a motion.
I make a motion, we close with that condition of adding the plantings and the markers.
I second that.
Great button. Oh, good. 8 Buttonwood Lane. I just want to make sure you got the right place.
Yep, 8 Buttonwood.
So are you saying close an issue or close with that condition?
Close with that condition.
Yeah, just close with the conditions, and then I'll take a look at the plan.
Okay,
And we can vote on it at the next time.
okay. So I got, so far, was it Penny with a
Any
motion?
motion, Brendan? I think.
Brendan seconded.
Yes.
Richard,
Yep.
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
33 New Driftway. So we've already opened this.
Oh, yeah.
Years ago,
Many times.
Okay.
Okay,
long time ago.
So we'll just turn it over to the engineer. Oh, no, we'll turn it over to Mr. Orenberger, who has his hand up. So hold on.
Good evening, Bill Orenberger. I just wanted just a brief introduction. Greg Morris is here, who's going to give the presentation. And we have a meeting in another week and a half with the planning board. Just by way of background, John Sullivan, the applicant's here. And this property has been owned, John's existing law office is part of the property in McDonald Terrace. And the other parcel of land has been owned by the Sullivan family for a long period of time, over 40 years. And this really is a gateway project to the Driftway. And we've have I've done a lot of architectural work, I've met on the site with planning board members and others. So John and his wife Una are very excited about the project, which is going to be apartments and also which are really needed in this town, and also going to have some affordable apartments also, but equally importantly is the entrance to the existing burger barn there is a kind of at a funny angle and is in a dangerous situation. And what Greg has engineered and which John and Una have done, we're relocating that entrance so that it aligns with the flashing light that's up a little bit. And that's a real advantage. The police department particularly is concerned always about accidents that come out of there. So with that, Greg will let you know what's going on.
Thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. This project was open, at a previous meeting. This is a notice of intent. This is a mixed use development project. Ultimately, tonight, I expect that we will request a continuance to your second meeting in January, which will allow us time to go to the planning board next week to finalize our peer reviews with them and revise plans, hopefully to meet their approval as well as incorporate any comments that you might have this evening. But this site, the existing site, it's made up of 2 assessors parcels, which total approximately 47,047 square feet. So just over an acre of land. It's entirely upland land area. There are no endangered species habitat on the premises. There are no vernal pools on the premises. What exists there today are previously developed and degraded areas. As Attorney Orenberger said, there's an existing home on the property that was converted into a law office some time ago. That's number 7 McDonald Terrace. There's also a landscape supply yard located on the property, which has piles of dirt, loam materials, firewood, etc. That's existed at the property for some time as well. During our survey of the property, we conducted soils testing relatively extensively throughout the site. The soils here were well-drained, sandy soils, very consistent gravels, consistent with what we've seen on other projects in the Greenbush area of town. This site does have access to public utilities, which is nice. We have access to water, sewer, and gas available at the site between the McDonald Terrace frontage and the new Driftway frontage. The proposal here is to construct 2 new buildings. Building A is the larger of the buildings, located up right on New Driftway itself. That building has, on the ground level, approximately 3,500 square feet of commercial space. Above that, 14 residential units. That building is partially located inside of the 200-foot riverfront area to the Herring River. Looking at this plan here, the resource areas that we're considering, kind of at the bottom left corner of this plan view is the limit of the Herring River. It's a tidal river at this location. It's very well established. It's contained within a riprap embankment, and highlighted in purple on this plan is that 200-foot riverfront area, which you'll see cuts through, approximately a third of that front building, building A. Building B is entirely outside the riverfront area. That's a total of 6 residential units in that second building. Supporting these 2 buildings would be a new parking lot. You can see the entrance from New Driftway coming onto the site to a 38-space parking lot, which is located between buildings A and B. And as Attorney Orenberger brought up, with that new entrance on New Driftway, we're trying to fix essentially the entrance that exists at the Greenbush Ice House and the Rivershed restaurant property so that they would have a shared entranceway with us. It would be aligned with the yellow light that exists at the frontage at this location. It would be a much better entrance for both properties at that spot. Drainage for the parking lot, what we're proposing is we're proposing to capture drainage through a series of catch basins, particle separators known as first defense particle separators, and then we have subsurface infiltration chambers located under the parking lot. Again, because of the sandy and gravelly soil, we're able to infiltrate all of the storm events up to the 100-year storm event at this site. Submitted with our application were copies of operation and maintenance plans for the drainage, as well as the landscape and supporting infrastructure. Also submitted was construction phase mitigation consisting of erosion control barriers around the site, stabilized construction entrances, and the likes. This proposal, when we look at it with respect to the riverfront area, again, the site previously being developed contains degraded areas that are approximately 9,210 square feet in area. Those are areas that are already impervious surface, are devoid of topsoil, or are stockpile areas that exist in the landscape yard. With this proposal, we're reducing the degraded area on the site down to 8,453 square feet because we're providing loam and seed and re-landscaping some of those degraded areas that presently exist. DEP had no comments that I saw on this proposal. Again, we're going in front of the planning board next week to get their comments. We have gone through one round of peer review. At this point, the town of Scituate has hired John Chesia of Chesia Consulting to review all of the drainage and infrastructure associated with this. At this point, I'd turn it over to you for questions or comments. I turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Bill. Doug, why don't you start that one if you don't mind?
Okay.
Well, there's a little bit going on there.
There is. I'm looking on this is not the grading plan we have on our screen here. So I'm looking at that. I don't know if we can. I'm looking at that on my computer. So I was just looking at. There's a great deal of topography change in there, but there's not really a lot of grade lines. On the plan, is there? I'm just looking. Is there like retaining
Sure,
wall?
so-
I see you got infiltration that you're looking at.
Yep.
Who's planning board's doing the stormwater review, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so we don't have to. They'll handle that part. I was just. Yeah, go ahead. Are there some retaining walls involved?
Very, very few. We have a wall proposed along the frontage of Building A between New Driftway and the building. More to act essentially as a safety device as opposed to a retaining wall. The grading on the site, I think what's deceiving, Doug, is the existing conditions contours depict existing stockpiles of soil and material that are at the site as opposed to the natural topography.
So all those grade lines, that's like a mound out there. So that's just going to be removed.
Correct. So, you know, at the entrance of the site, on New Driftway exists at elevation 15. In the middle of our proposed parking lot, is at elevation 18. Proposed. It exists today at elevation 19. So we're very close to what the existing contours are out there. There's a little bit less grade change, I think, than you see based on those pile locations.
Okay. Yeah. And it's the grading and some of the site work goes into the neighboring site. Is that the same owner? Do we have what I'm getting around to is, do we have to have two applicants on the notice of intent?
Voting A and B?
No,
that what you're asking, Doug?
the work to actually construct the site extends a little further towards the First Herring Brook onto near the ice house. Unless I'm wrong, Greg, is that?
No, that's correct. We're realigning the entrance and then tying it into the ice house property.
Which is a good idea. That is a tough entrance. I wish you could add more parking as well, but
Yeah.
But So are they included in this application or do they have to be? It's a formality question, I think. Can you answer that, Amy?
I would think it would be good to have some sort of letter or something
Yeah,
from the
they should
owner of
be.
that property, just acknowledging.
Yeah, if there's more than one property, anybody whose property you're working on, you should have them also be signing the NOI, yes.
We can certainly provide that. We've been working with the abutter, Greenbush Realty Trust in developing this. We'd be glad to get that for you.
Bill, did you want to comment?
No, Greg just said it. We'll get a letter consenting that from the Berwicks.
It's not my
Um,
turn, but is
go
this going to
ahead.
connect McDonald Terrace to that entrance?
No, there physically is not a connection.
Okay. All right, Doug, are you satisfied?
No, that was a good question because I was looking through that. There's a lot going on. So, I mean, we're just, and I'll be brutally honest and say this is the first look that I've taken at this, but,
We got a few more members. You can study hard in the next 5 or
okay,
10 minutes.
go ahead. Well, let somebody else
How
I'll be like cramming for a test here.
about Penny?
Well, I'm just zooming around here in my brain. But, so there's no entrance onto McDonald Place from this project, right?
No,
The entrance will only be the new driftway.
correct. The only entrance is from New Driftway.
Okay,
At the end of McDonald Terrace, we are providing a turnaround for emergency vehicles, which does not exist today. There physically is no connection.
okay. You go straight into the parking area and then out the parking area back onto New Driftway.
Correct.
Okay, and you have a walkway around the outside of it, which is lovely. No, I find it all interesting. Moving on, Frank.
Okay.
Moving on.
Andy?
I guess I don't have any questions to add at the moment. The one thing I was thinking about was just the parking, but I mean, it looks like the development of this property, it's pretty much developing the whole property. What I'm thinking ahead to is what I don't like is some of these projects that we condition on a smaller footprint, and then when the space is rented out to different uses that exceed the need of parking, then suddenly they're back before us asking us to go further into the buffer or the wetland. So I'd want to think about that, but it looks like this site is going to be pretty much fully developed, so there really wouldn't be anywhere to go. But that's sort of the one issue I was looking into from my end as I looked at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is that parking calculated, Greg?
So in the zoning bylaw, there's a pretty strict requirements for parking based off of the use. So we looked at the number of apartments, we looked at the square footage for the commercial and retail spaces, and did the calculation based on that. It requires a total of 35 parking spaces. What we're proposing are 38 parking spaces at this location.
Okay.
I think everybody can think about the questions. I don't mind doubling back on folks after you've had a chance to look at it a little bit more. Brendan?
I don't know that I have anything at the moment. I have a lot of thoughts going through my head, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm not coming up with anything yet.
All right. Richard?
I'm in the same boat as Brendan on this one. I'm just taking it all in. I'm not ready for salient
Okay.
questions.
Amy, do you want to comment any more on?
Yes, I mean, I haven't really commented at all yet. really.
Okay. Sorry.
So, I mean, I guess at this stage of the game, the thing that we should be focused on is just really the accuracy of the resource areas. And so, I mean, I'm in agreement that we're in land subject to coastal storm flowage here, and that there's a perennial stream off-site, First Herring Brook, and that you would go by mean annual high water for the bank. I'm just wondering, Greg, where's the source? What did you use for the source for that? I'm not, was looking on your plan for that.
Sure. So the mean annual high water is established, it's an elevation.
Yeah,
What we have established at that elevation is elevation 4.2.
yeah,
And I believe that's the same elevation that was used for the 7 new Driftway project, which
That
abuts the same
sounds-
river.
like what I just looked at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yep, that sounds right. Yeah, so I mean, so we should be focused on accuracy so that these numbers, you know, you can go on the numbers for the inner and outer riparian calculations, just for the riverfront calculations, to make sure that those all work, which it looks like they do. Looks like they do work. So that's good. We will also want to rely on the stormwater review, which, as Greg said, is been going back and forth with Mr. Chestier, and I think it's making some progress in that department. I don't know how many times, or if we even have the most recent site plan up on the screen or
You-
not, but I'm sure that we'll be getting revised plans before we close on this. And it looks like a pretty exciting project. About all I have right now.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
Seeing none, Frank.
Okay. So going back to the parking for a minute, is this the parking for this project? Is that under the guidelines for something to do with being near a train station? I can't remember the exact.
Yes, it's the village center and neighborhood zoning districts.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that allows for less parking because it's near a train station. Thought is that people would be using some public transportation more frequently than not. I also noticed the parking, looks like there's double parking, so that must be for tenants to have 2 cars or something.
That's correct. So yeah, the bylaw allows tandem parking where, you know, one of the apartments, you know, that requires 2 spaces can have spaces that are, you know, front to back to each other because they control both spaces.
Okay. And am I right in interpreting this now, Greg, like you're saying that the entrance is moved, so this will be the entrance to both this project and
Yates House and Restaurant.
Yes. So this will be the entrance to this project as well as the new entrance to the Rivershed and Ice House property. If you were to zoom in at the entrance on this plan, you would see in light gray the existing driveway that accesses the yeah, you can see in light gray the
Yep.
existing driveway that comes in. It's a pretty sharp angle with respect to New Driftway.
Mhm.
And so we would be closing off that curb cut. That's a paved entrance. We'd be removing that pavement. And then relocating the entrance out to this new one, which is obviously a 90-degree intersection. It's lined up with the yellow blinking light out in the center of the roadway. So it's a much safer situation all around.
Got it. Hmm. I mean, there isn't, aside from, like, as Amy points out, aside from this wetlands delineation, it's not like they're really that close. I'm assuming that any runoff from this project that heads towards the river shed is being dealt with. As Doug said, there's not a lot of topography on this plan.
Yeah, the grading and utility plan shows the drainage systems, but yes, it's including the 100-year storm event. It's all infiltrated on the site. It's the same systems that we've installed at 50 Country Way behind the Bagel Restaurant, as well as Untold Brewing, where all of the stormwater from the roof and all of the stormwater from the parking lot basically get infiltrated back into the soil because it's it's such sandy soil at this location.
Right. Okay. So Amy, how far out would this need to be continued?
I think Greg was saying maybe the second January meeting. Is that what you're saying in the beginning here, Greg?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because we go to planning board next week and I expect that they will have some comments. We will likely be revising plans that following week just before Christmas. And then Mr. Chesia needs to review those, which takes approximately 3 weeks. But I would expect that we would be back in front of the planning board and in the commission here at the end of January.
Okay, so our January meeting is the 23rd. And if that doesn't work, we can always adjust it.
Yep, that would be great.
Okay, so we want to continue this to the 23rd.
Yep, I'll make a motion. We continue 33 New Driftway to January 23rd, 2023.
That's Penny. Who's second?
Second, Andy.
From Andy. All in favor, Richard?
Yep.
Doug?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Awesome. Great.
Thank
Thank
you very
you,
much.
Bill.
Thank
Thank
you very
you,
much.
Greg. We're looking at RDA for Atlantic Ave from Seaview to Barrett. This is continued from 11/7. Are we gonna, I have something here on that.
So one of the applicants there emailed me just a little bit ago on that one, right before the meeting, and wanted to continue for about a month. So we'll go to the 9th.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Amy?
Sure.
Before we continue it, is Seaview to Barrett, is that, or Atlantic Ave, is that a private road?
Yes. Atlantic is, yeah, they all
They're
are.
all private.
Yep.
Okay.
I guess way back when things were different, the town maybe maintained
Yes,
the roads, but
they did.
they don't anymore.
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay.
no, I was just curious, I mean. We got down the road today, but moving on. So I'll make a motion to continue Atlantic Ave, the road repair until January 9th.
Second,
That's okay. That's Penny.
And that's it.
and Richard.
Second from Richard.
Yep.
Yeah.
All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you.
One more.
188 Manlot Road on
Stuff that-
December 5th during the 6 p.m. meeting, the Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Luminous Horizon LLC for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to a septic repair for a single-family dwelling at 188 Manlot Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website.
Good evening. This is Greg Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the applicant Luminous Horizon LLC. This is an RDA for a septic system repair at 188 Manlot Road. The existing property has an existing 4-bedroom home on it with a failed septic system. We had John Zimmer, a professional wetland scientist, visit the site, and he had flagged at the rear of the property a bordering vegetated wetland, which is the line that's highlighted in blue. Off of that is the 50-foot buffer in red and the 100-foot buffer in green. The proposal here is to construct a new Title V compliant septic system. It's a 1,500-gallon septic tank, a distribution box, and a Presby EnviroSeptic leaching field. All of the work is outside of the 50-foot buffer. It's in an area that's existing lawn area. We have an erosion control barrier around the limit of work. The Board of Health is awaiting your approval to issue their permit. This meets the requirements for a negative determination in accordance with the state standards. As all of the work is outside the 50-foot buffer, it is not new construction, and it's replacement of an existing system. I turn it over to you.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, so it's replacing an existing cesspool.
Yep.
So I'd say this is going to be a big improvement, and it appears to meet the requirements of a negative finding. So great job.
Okay, thank you. Brendan?
Oh, man.
No, I think this is great.
Okay.
No questions.
Andy?
No questions for me.
Okay. Penny?
No, moving forward.
Doug?
I'm good.
Richard?
I'm fine, thank you.
Anybody in the audience?
Seeing none, Frank.
Just a question, Greg, there's no way that leaching field could have been pushed more between, say, the house and the property line on the left?
So it could, but there were a couple of trees that would have to come down if that was the case, number one. Number two, it would have resulted in about a 2.5 to 3 foot high mound in the side yard. As
Okay.
opposed to where we cited it, there are no trees other than a 4-inch tree that have to come down.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion, Frank, for a -3.
Yes, if that's what you want to do.
That's what I want to do.
Okay. And do I have a second?
I don't know.
I'll second.
I'll second it. Oh,
Andy seconded. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Night.
Thanks, Greg.
Good.
Okay. I think that we're through the list.
We did,
Yeah,
Frank. We're
now we got-
on to administrative items.
Yep.
And I was hoping, if it's okay with you, that we could take the land donation item first,
Sure.
which would be Bill Ornberger, if that's okay.
Yep.
Wait just a second.
Where's Bill?
He's there.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bill.
Thank you. I represent Toll Mass Land 3 Limited Partnership, who built the seaside at Scituate. One of the things from the beginning of the development we talked about, which is not part of the condominium, right along Oceanside. There's actually 7 assessors parcels right along the seawall, it's actually 14 or 15 lots. And the intention has always been to donate those to the town of Scituate and for conservation purpose under the care and custody of conservation. So I'm here tonight to officially offer it in writing with the hope that the commission will accept it. And in turn, what we would then do is we would be on the selectmen's meeting for December 20th to get this wrapped up before the end of the year. And that's about all that I can answer any questions relating. I think you're all familiar with it. It's sand and gravel lots along, considerable distance along the road.
Yeah, beachfront property.
So this is from Toll Brothers, you go towards the ocean and there's a large marsh area,
Yes,
sort of between 10th Ave and 6th.
Yep.
Or something. So then on the other side of Ocean side is a strip of land between the road and the seawall. As Bill said,
Correct.
it's all rocky and some boulders and things like that. And we've had some discussion about this and talking with the town administrator. And the sort of the cleanest way for Toll to donate this property is to give it to the Conservation Commission. If it's given to the town in another fashion, it has to go to town meeting and be voted. But the thing that I think is important with this piece of property is it's useful. We'd obviously like to see it not developed. So by being in conservation, it won't get developed. But that piece of property could be beneficial to the town, the DPW, if there are projects that need to be done in that area. It's been a staging area for some of the seawall work. It's one of the couple of places down in that area that is open to be used for materials like boulders and other equipment when they have to do work along the water. There's an outfall pipe that is there that needs to be maintained. So I think it's important in accepting this piece of property that we recognize that this isn't just going to be left entirely alone. It's not going to be developed, but it has multiple uses that could be helpful to the town as well. So I think that we need to make sure that in accepting that land, that we note that that's part of accepting that and that property can be used by the town for that sort of thing. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank, so far when they've staged down there and stuff, they pretty much leave it clean when they leave.
And we can put that into that letter that,
Yeah.
things can't be left, it may be beneficial for the town if they ever had the opportunity to stockpile, say, boulders in case there's a storm or something like that. And I don't really see the detriment in that, but we wouldn't want to have like rebar and.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They seem to, whoever's working out there seems to take their rubbish with them. They don't leave, like you just said, rebar or concrete or this or that. No, boulders storing boulders before a storm, that's a completely different ball of wax, and I think it's a great thing for us to take this on.
There you go.
Anybody, so
My 2 cents.
Penny's got hers 2 cents in. Brendan?
Yeah, sounds, I don't see any reason why not.
Andy?
I'll continue to recuse on Toll Brothers things.
Okay. Doug?
I think it's good. Yeah. It seems like a good proposal to me.
Richard?
All good.
Amy, you want to add anything to that?
I don't think I have anything to add. I mean, I comprehend what you're saying. So I understand that what I think you need to do, though, you need to make a motion to accept the land donation. And that you want to make it subject to allowing town municipal uses. So it's going to be deeded to Conservation Commission, but subject to town municipal usage. But do you want to make it under agreement, like using, like they can use it in agreement with, or just, I don't know
I know.
if you want to word it or just keep it open. I think you should probably just keep it open personally.
I do.
Because I've seen some of the funds that we have, there's language that's pretty specific on how you can spend the money, you know?
Right.
And we have it worded pretty specifically, like agreement, you know, by both parties, that type of thing. But I think if you keep it, the more open you keep it, the easier it is to use it under, say it's an emergency situation, you know?
Well, I think it might not be even just an emergency, but it just might be for, what I guess I would hate to see is, let's say the properties, you know, we've accepted it in conservation.
Mhm.
Along the way, someone decides, geez, that would make a nice little park or some other kind of thing, and it gets further improved. And then, you know, hopefully not for a long time, because they just did that seawall, but in 50 years or something, they have to do seawall work again. And then all of a sudden there's this tug of war over who gets to use the property. Bill, you're still on, right?
Yeah, what the only thing I spoke with Peter McNulty as town counsel for real estate matters. And what he said to me is, from a technical standpoint, it's to the inhabitants of the town of Scituate for conservation purposes under general laws, section 40, chapter 40, section 8C. And that's the whole Conservation Commission provision in the general laws, and so it's for conservation purposes. So you're right, this can't be sold, used for anything other than conservation purposes. So whatever the commission does, you know, in the case of a storm event or something else, I think is up to you folks. The only caveat I'd put, as Amy said, to the simpler we can keep it, the better, is because there's sort of a time-driven thing. Is because if the town doesn't accept it, or the selectmen has something, then by the first of the year or so, it would probably be deeded and said to the condominium association, that's not the intent, and that's not what we want to do. So
I think all along, Bill, not that this was sort of promoted that Toll would give this land to the town.
Understood, Frank.
So, but I just, and I'm glad to take it. I'm glad that we're working with them. I just want to make sure that when we go before the selectmen and they've got some questions, that we're good.
Understood.
With them. So okay, I think we get the gist of what we need to do here. So can I get a motion from somebody?
I make a motion that we accept the donation from the Toll Brothers for the oceanside parcels of land. I believe you said there's 7.
That's from the assessor standpoint, yes, Penny.
7,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's all the property, right?
Yeah, it's all the
left on
property.
that side.
Yep.
Second.
And with some sort of stipulation that we come up with some agreement that it's accessible for the town for
But town use.
maintenance, repair. Yep. Okay. So I got a second from Richard. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Andy.
He's Staining.
Recused.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Brendan
Yes.
and Frank. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, take care.
Good night.
Too.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay,
Frank,
Penny.
the marsh across the street, is that town property?
I don't think so.
It's their property,
That's under the homeowners association.
the marsh?
Yep. That went to the HOA. We
So
looked
they
into
can
that one.
maintain it
Yeah,
and pay taxes on it.
Okay.
And
we
here's
can
another
make you
one.
Maintain it if it gets full of junk again?
Well, that's our
Huh.
goal, to get them to do that. Yep.
Okay, that was my big concern there.
So I've been going back and forth with them about the vernal pool,
Yeah.
and he's adamant that they cleaned it up. And so I asked for proof, no proof.
Well, let's take a walk out there, tell them.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
I mean, it isn't that big of an area, Amy.
No, I know.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's something we want to confirm that it's done.
Yeah. Yeah, because
And
there
like you say,
was,
it's not that difficult. You can park right there at Irving and walk into it.
yeah, and just walk
Well,
around it.
There's receipts from the company that did the cleanup, because the guy that left the company was paying a company to do it. And so there's information that he could come up with too.
Okay.
So the new guy is just, he doesn't know.
I'd just like to see it with my own eyes, because there was some furniture and I think there was an old washer or something out there. I don't know. But just to walk around it.
Yeah, let's go
before
tomorrow.
We say, okay,
Yeah,
I can't go tomorrow. I wish I could. I have a worker coming.
okay, soon.
Yes, no, definitely. They'll be finishing up tomorrow, yeah,
Okay.
and then I'm free. Okay, so what do we
Okay,
want to go
What
back
else,
to?
what else would you like
Well,
to,
let's go quickly, we can do the orders of condition. I make a
Okay.
motion, we accept the orders of condition as written for 1 Tilden Ave, 46 Townway Extension, 2 Rebecca Road, and 90 Old Ford Road as written.
that's a motion from Penny. About a second,
Second it.
second from Doug. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
And we're issuing CFCs for a dock and a deck.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay,
River Street.
Yep.
What are you
All right.
doing on 22nd, 22 10th Ave?
I think that's a deck.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, it is, it is.
Yeah. I don't know how much time you want to spend on policies. I have put them on there because we need to think about them.
Well, why don't you give us your thoughts on that, Amy, and then we could actually be out of here a little early tonight, but we do have, if everybody's got a few minutes, let's.
Well, I mean, I think that the Hummerock Beach policy, it's Corey put together, something, it's a kind of a good, maybe first start, but I think it needs to be whittled down or worked on a bit. It's a little bit broad for what we're looking for. I think we need direction so that hopefully we'll keep down on the number of machines that are out on Hummerock Beach next season.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the tree policy, I mean, I think that the feedback, at least from Doug, that I'm getting on that one is it's a little too strict.
Well,
First.
yeah, I don't, I just think we want to, I don't want to have a policy that is difficult to actually meet. Like, just here's an example, like replacing trees in kind, like a 2-to-1. I don't know, there's a few of those kind of things. if somebody cuts down a 12-inch tree, you can't buy another 12-inch tree.
Right, I agree. I don't
So-
think that we want it to be something you can't meet.
Right. So we just have to think it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how strict do we want to be with private development? Somebody puts, it's built an addition or something in the back and they're going to cut down some trees. I'm for a tree bylaw. I mean, I think we've had some of these projects come through where they just clear all the way to the lot line and offer nothing
Mm-hmm.
in return. And I wish people would just maybe try a little harder, but so, ultimately you end up with the tree bylaw because that's, what happens, but if you're going to identify species, you really are, you are in a sense requiring that a professional botanist be on site to do
Right.
that. There's, I just know I can't do it, especially this time of year. I
Yeah,
can't.
no, we want to
accurately
keep it
identify
within
species.
reason, not too onerous. But I think there needs to be some kind of a standard though, rather than just willy-nilly,
No, I agree. I just want us all to really think about that with our eyes open, because it will increase the cost of permitting, and it will increase the complexity on
Mhm.
some of these applications, because but in some of them they need it. If you're going to if you're going to the planning board has some sort of tree bylaw, because I've had to locate trees on sites before. I don't know what they never did anything about it to my knowledge. They just required that you show all the trees you're going to cut down. And then one of the things we would do with the planning board though is if you're in a heavily forested area, what you do is instead you tag trees to be saved and locate those on a plan. I just want to, because I've certainly been on the other side where you've got to locate trees and draw a plan up. So you've got a separate sheet with black dots all over.
Yeah,
The trunks and so an idea of, suppose you had a little small lot and they're going to cut down some trees. There is no other place to replicate those. Are we going to, ask for waivers on such certain cases, or, just like, I just want everybody to kind of think about the practicality of a tree bylaw, which on its own is a good idea, but how do we apply that? And what I'm confused about too is a policy. Is that something that's we can enforce? Or is it something that's just really easy to just simply appeal if it's in our conditions?
good point.
So, I mean, we had a couple of sites like off of Man Hill where, and there's been a few others where they're really cutting out an awful lot of the trees,
Mhm.
Yeah,
almost taking everything out altogether. And I think it would be good to have some sort of standard that we could say, here's what we want back. I mean, we know environmentally replacing the trees is the right thing to do.
right.
Not
But
o-
if it's an invasive species, do we really want that back, or do we want them to put something in
No, but it's still a tree,
exchange?
and I
Yeah.
think we could. But are there any Amy, are you aware of any towns, or does the state have any guidelines on sort of replacements for that? Or, is it 2 to 1, 3 to 1? Is it some sort of ratio of the diameter of an existing, mature tree versus 3 or 4 new tree? I don't know. I mean, maybe,
Yeah,
and I don't
there's
know.
lots of towns have standards on tree replacement based on diameters. Some of them get really specific,
Yeah.
depending on the town. This policy that I sent out was based on what Norwell has in place. And I think it's maybe a little bit too much, honestly. I'd like to maybe try to lighten it a little bit. But I thought it was a good starting point.
Town of Lexington's got a
Conversation.
very robust one. So theirs is you replace in kind by the caliper size. So you cut down a 12-inch tree, you would have to put in three, or maybe 3-4-inch trees.
Mhm.
So you would have to equal up that, the caliper of the trunk. And you got to find a place to do that. And that's part of the
Not every site
project.
has that kind of room. Yeah.
No, and they actually have a tree warden.
Right.
So they have a person to police this, so it's not stuck on it's not part of the Concom, it's actually part of the zoning bylaw. So it
What
doesn't
town is
matter.
that?
They could, it's Lexington, and it doesn't matter if
Yeah,
it's in a
that
buffer.
sounds right.
It's not just in a buffer zone, it's everywhere.
Yeah, so those are more urban areas.
Yeah,
Thought you
yeah.
were
And
gonna say
they,
Hingham or something like that, but yeah.
no, and yeah, right. So they're at the point where they're going to lose every tree they have if they didn't push something forward. So I mean, I think we could think about when you say it a policy, I guess the reason why I'm talking about enforcement is if it's a policy, it seems like we can be a little bit more case by case. And that if we stated a policy that we'd like to replace trees in kind that are removed from the 100-foot or within the buffer zone or within the resource, our area of jurisdiction.
Mhm.
Well,
We
let's
could
just say,
we could state from a plan requirement, they don't have to locate every tree within the buffer zone, just all the trees that they're going to in the area that they're going to be doing the work. So that would make it less onerous. It does require that maybe they think ahead a little bit about the project before they, have the surveyors go out there. So if we stipulated something like that, I cut you off, Frank. I didn't mean to. So
no, I'm sorry. I'm trying to help out, and I really want to get some input from the other members as well. But some of these sites, like where we may have a buffer, but it's a big site, and then it also flips to the planning board. But I would think that we would have some say in not just the trees in the buffer, but the whole site when they're clearing a whole site, either ourselves or working with the planning board, so that maybe we have a policy that works with both of us, so it's not conflicting. But
yeah,
to come up with some sort of replacement for this, so that people do have to put these back, and it's not just, you oftentimes see these houses, they come in, they flatten a lot, they put up a house, and then they throw up a few simple trees, and then over time people tend to plant some more because they want them. But maybe there's something that should just be part of a project, and there's a number of different reasons for doing that. It's not just aesthetics. So anybody else want to chime in on to whether they think that this is something important for us to work at?
It absolutely is. What kind of restrictions and replacements that I think is what will take some working on, but I'm sure we can come up with it.
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to lay out the standards so, they can come in with a plan that is ready for it, as opposed to us sort of deciding sometimes to add trees, sometimes not. I think it might be.
Sure.
And if I'm recalling, one of our consultants, I thought, has in the past referenced their tree, the tree plan in their town. I'm forgetting which one.
Was that Art? Amy, do you remember that?
I think with Bob Gray.
I think that's right.
Okay,
Or was it Milton?
Oh,
It-
Steve Ivas?
No. Oh,
I think it was Steve.
yeah,
Yeah.
it could have been.
Because he
Yeah,
works
you know,
in Milton, but
they'd be good ones to ask to weigh in, help us out with that. Bob and Art.
I throw a wrench in this whole thing.
Why not?
I'm a young person. Okay, I'm just starting out. I'm just starting my family. I have 3 kids. I want to have a few more. So I end up with 3 or 4 kids. Okay. I'm building a new house. I'm out of the buffer zone. All buffer zones. And I want to clear cut my lot because I want my kids to be able to play soccer in their backyard. What are you going to do to me? I paid for that property. Okay. And I want to clear cut it. I want it all lawn so my kids can play soccer out there. I don't want them running into a tree. I want them to be able to play baseball out there.
Penny, you seem to have taken like a 360 on this. From someone that didn't want a tree to be cut down, all of a sudden she's hacked up this beautiful
Well-
pine tree in her yard and turned it into a flagpole.
Besides, kids need to learn to dodge those trees because there's going to be a goalie in the way.
No, but what I'm
You
saying,
watch the World Cup.
do we have a right when it's out of our jurisdiction to say you've got to plant those trees back? I'm just,
Somebody's going to come up with it.
I
Well,
We
think
don't.
I can
We
see
don't. We
from
don't
my
yet.
own-
But
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we don't right now. I mean, I think the question is that is the town interested in adopting some sort of a tree bylaw? We're looking at a policy would have to, I think it would have to, I don't see how we could do anything that outside of our jurisdiction area.
Well,
So-
we have
so
in the
Doug,
past.
yeah, no, we're not looking to do that.
so.
All
Let's
right,
say that
remember that.
let's say that we have a site, someone comes before the commission,
Sure.
it's acre, something like that. They need to cut in the driveway, they need to have parking, the house and all those sort of things. So they have to cut down a number of trees. To do that, they have to cut down some trees for the septic system. Are we gonna want? And they already have some pretty substantial trees that have to come down for that. So now you're talking about having to plant 30 or 40 trees to replace 10 trees or something.
It's
Um,
expensive.
Yeah.
Well, not only the cost, but is it sensible? To try to wedge that many trees into an area. You know what I mean? Over time, they're gonna grow.
Yeah, if you overcrowd them, it's not good. Like that's, I think that's kind of my point.
Wow.
It's like we're kind of requiring that another professional be involved because I certainly don't have the expertise to know the answer to that. Like you can't just cram a bunch of trees right next to each other and say, call it a day. They have to have space to grow. And they
Yeah.
have to have sunshine and everything else. And it does become complicated. And that's what I said, like, the only town that I know that has gotten that robust with it that I've actually worked in was Lexington, but they actually had a hired, somebody that could do this and knew that and monitored it and made those decisions to make it, the build outs reasonable. I don't want to saddle us with like, trying to enforce something that does, seems totally unreasonable to the average person coming in with wanting to put up a deck. And, but on the other hand, we have a problem. I mean, it's, Penny's scenario that she's describing there, I think would be a shame, environmentally, because you clear cut an area and you put down, Kentucky bluegrass and, you got a nice lawn, it's nice to play ball on, but it does absolutely nothing for the environment. So
But you have healthy children that are outdoors in the fresh air instead of being in front of the stupid computer playing those awful video games. I don't know, it's a balancing act, okay? It's just, I do not want to step on people's toes. They're right. If they paid for a piece of property. And you know what? A lot of these properties, there's trees all surrounding them. Even when they clear cut, there's still a lot of trees around. I'm just saying that in the buffer zones, we have every right to ask them to replant what they take down, if they have to take stuff down, or to do something good for the environment. But when you get out of the buffer zones, I just wonder if we are overstepping our bounds. That's all.
Could we maybe talk to?
You know, honest with you, if they wanted to appeal that,
No.
they'd go to the state. Couldn't they go to the state? And the state does not have these buffer zones, and they could tell us to take a flying leap. I don't know. I just think, yeah, we have to discuss this more. Look into it more.
Andy, what's your thinking?
We're wisely discussing a lot of hypotheticals, but could we talk to a commission that does have one of these rules just to kind of talk it out? I mean, even like Doug's thing, my take was that if you put 6 2-inch trees to replace a 12-inch tree, that's looking to the future, hoping that one will become the 12-inch tree and 6 will die, right? So I don't know who has the science behind it. Maybe we could get somebody in who knows it. Just help us think it through.
well, I would certainly reach out to the couple towns I've worked in that have implemented these bylaws, and maybe we could talk to Norwell and see how it's going. That's fairly new for them. It's only been a couple of years.
I could put out some feelers and let's get some more examples, because this was just example of from town next door, and I'm not sure how it's going for them. Because I don't think that they've had this policy forever, you know what I mean? I think it might be rather new. So.
Yeah, it's only been a couple of years. I remember when it came in.
But I know, but I've been doing this for a while now, and I know that in professional meetings, we, like the agents, we talk about it. There's a lot of talk about tree replacement and that it's required to do, and in towns, definitely commissions require people that take down trees. Some commissions are more hardcore than others as far as replacement go. I mean, some are extremely hardcore. Very vigilant. And I just think that it would be good to have a baseline and to be consistent.
I
that's
agree
what
with that
I'm looking
100%.
for.
Yeah.
So just as a way to get this off the ground, Amy and Doug, maybe you two could just converse a little bit. If you could each decide on a town or two that you want to get some input from, and then maybe we could look them over and then get that back in front of the commission.
All right. And if we need to go dive deeper into more conversation, we could do that at the next pizza roundtable.
Yep, we are gonna do that.
Because we're 1 minute from maybe having an 8:30 meeting, but the continuance policy, which we won't discuss because then we definitely won't make that goal. But I'm thinking 4 continuances and then you re-advertise.
Yes, sounds good.
Yep.
No more than 4.
I think that what happens is, people come in and they continue, and then the abutters or interested people sort of get lost in that shuffle. And
They do, I'm sure. Because
so,
it's only advertised for the first time.
right.
And the other thing, I'm just going to throw it out there, but I think we should think about going back to in person.
I think we may have to. We're going to change in administration. It could
Right.
very easily
I'm
be.
losing my connection. I'm losing my
Right.
connection.
The new governor, I'm not sure what she's going to say, but
I think we have to give Jen a chance to come back.
Well, it could be that there's a way to participate in, some instances remotely, if we get a quorum,
Well, there is.
but not as a regular gig, you know what I mean?
Good.
But anyways, it's just to think about it, just to
Yep.
start thinking about that
Yeah,
situation.
well, I'm with Doug. I'm gonna hang up now.
All right.
Yeah.
Motion.
Think of all the gas that people haven't burned trying to get to the meeting and back. No, I miss everybody. We could have some
That part is true.
discussions.
Jake
All right.
would miss you people. Jake likes to come to meetings.
Well, Jake could come to the
Good,
meetings.
yes.
I'll
Then I'll,
bring it with
Bring
me.
Gabby too.
Yeah, you could bring your pet.
I'll bring Patrick and Roscoe. No
Yeah,
problem.
Gabby goes up to town hall periodically. He likes it. Yep, she likes it. up
All right, time
Have
to
we,
go. I'll
um,
make a
I-
motion to adjourn.
We'll
That was
see.
Thanks,
I'll second
everybody.
that.
Great
All
meeting.
right.
See, look at that.
Good night.
So we had a motion, a second, all in favor. Yep. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
yep,
Take
Have a
care.
good
everyone.
evening.
Take care.
good night.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Good night, Penny.
Sleep